Okay, in this video I'm going to go over how to make a validator on the Helium network. Currently we're in the testing phase of the validator network, aka Testnet. So some of these steps might change. It's definitely an evolving process. And when this goes to the main chain, there might be some things that might differ a little bit. But just to give a background on what we got set up here, I'm going to be running everything from this Ubuntu desktop. And this is where we're going to have our Helium wallet that we're going to use to stake our validator. And the validator is going to reside in the cloud. So we're going to show how to set up the wallet, how to set up the validator in the cloud, and then how to stake it from our wallet. So let's go ahead and first take a look at this website. So this is where you're going to want to start off from. This is kind of the guide on how to set everything up. It has all the links you need and all the information required to set up a validator. So you're going to want to go to this site. And if we just kind of go through here, you can see there's all kinds of useful information, useful links. You can kind of jump around here, or we're just going to go straight to the development guide. And to start off, we are going to create a wallet. So this is where we're going to stake our validator from. But let's go ahead and first go to the wallet. So let's go to this website here, and this is the GitHub where the wallet is stored. This is the source code, but we're just going to want to get the compiled version. So we'll just go ahead and click on the latest release, download that, and there it is. We just have to extract it. So we'll extract it in our documents folder. And there we go. So what we're going to go ahead and do is we're going to go into this folder and open it up in the terminal. This is the executable that we'll be running. So here we are in the terminal. And we're just going to go down into this guide and see what commands we have to run. So first what we need to do is create a wallet because we don't currently have one. We just have the executable. So we'll run this command. And we need to create a password. So just go ahead and come up with a secure password. And just give it a second because it does take a while for all the keys to be generated. And there you go. So this is your wallet address. We are on the testnet, and we can actually do another command, get the info. And you can see here, there we are, testnet. There's our address. And our balance is unfortunately only, we don't have anything in there. We're at 0. So we need to fund this wallet. Hopefully on the mainnet, you already have some funds to set up your validator. But here, what we're going to need to do is go to this link. And the Helium team has set up something called the Helium Testnet Faucet. And this is going to allow us to get 10,000 TNT, which is the testnet currency that we'll be using. So we're going to go ahead, we've copied our wallet address, and then we're going to plug that into this website here. Go ahead and hit submit, and it should accept it, and hopefully you will soon see it in your wallet. But if you run into any issues, you might have to play around with it and repeat these steps just to get your stake. So we're going to go ahead and look at the wallet and see how much TNT we have. Right now we only have 0 because the transaction hasn't gone through yet. So we're going to give the network a little bit of time to get those tokens to us. And I'm just going to pause here, and we'll come back once we have those 10,000 TNT. So here we are. We have our 10,000 TNT. There's actually a little bit of padding there, 10,005. That's to cover the transactions that we're going to need to be doing. Otherwise, you won't be able to fully stake the full 10,000 if you had exactly 10,000. Okay, so I'm going to use Google Cloud for the location of my validator. There's obviously a ton of options out there. Google Cloud is just one of them. You can definitely search around, check out the pricing on what would be the best option for you. Good thing about Google Cloud is they do have a free $300 credit that you can use when you first set up an account. So that's what we're going to use today. You're going to want to have your validator in the cloud though. If you have it hosted at home or something like that, it might hurt the reliability of the network, and none of us want that. So let's go ahead and log in. I already have a Google Cloud account, so I'm just gonna skip through that. All right, so the first thing you need to do is set up a project in Google Cloud, and this is where all of your hosted activities are stored together. So we're gonna go ahead and just create a project. We will call it, how about Helium Validator? Okay, and go ahead and create that. Okay, and then that's just going to take a second, so we'll wait for that to happen. I already have some other projects in here, so you can kind of ignore what's on the screen. All right, so now it's created. We can go ahead and jump into that project. And you can see here's our project name. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is we're not actually going to create our virtual machine. So that's where the validator is going to live. Instead, what we have to do is some networking stuff to start off with. So let's go ahead and go into VPC. VPC network it stands for Virtual Private Cloud. And this is where we're going to put some network settings in here just to contain them, and we can then link them to our virtual machine when we're ready. And we're going to take a look at this list here. These are all the possible locations that you can host your virtual machines and all your cloud services from, stationed all over the world. We're just going to go ahead and stick with the central US, the default one here at the very top. And this address right here, this is going to be important for us later. So we're going to go ahead and copy this IP address range. You can obviously choose any location you want. So let's go ahead and create a VPC. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and just name this something useful, so like Validator VPC. And let's go ahead and start setting this up. We're going to have to set up a subnet. So we need to create a name for that, Validator subnet. And for the region, we're going to, like I said before, we're just going to go ahead and choose US Central. And then that range that we copied earlier, we're going to copy that in here. And that's it. So we just need to create that. And that will just take a couple seconds to do that. So we need to set up our firewall settings here. And this is going to allow us to open up some ports. So if we go to the requirements of the validator, we can see here that we need to open up port 2154 TCP. So what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to create a rule in the firewall, and we're going to want to allow that port. So allow 2154, just a useful name so we know what this rule does. We're going to choose the network that we just created, and we're going to choose that this applies to all instances of the network. We're just going to do that for now, and we're going to set it for all IP ranges. So just all 0.0.0.0.0/0. Then if we just click on TCP and we go ahead and list that port 2154, that's all we need to do. So we'll go ahead and create that. And now what we've done is on our virtual private cloud, we can have now opened up that port. One other thing that we need to do, and this is unique to probably Google Cloud, is open up a port for our SSH into our virtual machine. So I'm going to go ahead and do that right now. It's called IAP. That's the security mechanism that Google uses. And you will have to look it up, but there is a specific IP address that you will need to put in here. We're going to use all the same settings as before. And then this IP address, you would have to look it up, but it's for the Google IAP. And the ports I need to open are 22, which is your basic SSH port, and an additional port as well. So now that we have those two rules, that's all we need on our firewall, and we should be good to start up our VM. So let's go to Compute Engine, VM, Instance, and we are going to create an instance. Okay, so let's go ahead and name this Validator VM. And we're going to go in here and we are going to start setting up our VM. So we need to figure out what type of hardware we're going to run this on. I'm going to go ahead and just choose E2. I believe that is probably your cheapest option. All of this hardware is definitely powerful enough to run a Helium validator. So I'm just going to go with the default here with E2. And then we need to choose how many cores and how much memory we're going to assign to our virtual machine. So I'm going to go ahead and pick 2 cores and 8 gigabytes of memory. So if we go to the technical requirements, that's the recommendation from the Helium team. So that's what I'm going to choose today. Okay, so next thing we need to set up is our operating system. So right now it's defaulted to this Linux distro. Instead, what we're going to do is we're going to do Ubuntu. That's what was recommended by the Helium team, and they recommended 20.0.4. And also it was recommended that we had 256 gigabytes of storage. So we're going to do 256. I'm going to go ahead and choose balanced storage, which is a hybrid between SSDs and magnetic storage. And that so far seems to be working fine for me. And next thing we need to do is get into our networking settings. And this is where we're going to choose our network that we previously created. So let's go ahead and choose the Validator VPC. The internal IP address doesn't matter, we can just be assigned something. And then we're going to go ahead and we're going to need a static external IP address. So let's go ahead and create Validator static IP. For all of these names, you can choose whatever you want. I just like to choose a descriptive name so I know what I'm looking at in the future. So I'm going to go ahead and choose standard here. It's cheaper than the premium option. And as far as I can tell, it's not necessary for our use case. Okay, so we got our static IP. It's actually already been assigned. We can be done with this, and let's go ahead and create our virtual machine. Now it's going to take a while for this to boot up, so I'm going to come back in a little bit. Okay, so I'm back, and I did have to switch over to Google Chrome. I was having issues with Firefox, so we're going to run this from Chrome from now on. Okay, so we can see that our virtual machine is online and is running. So let's go ahead and click the SSH button, and this will SSH us into the virtual machine. And I'm just going to move my windows around here because we're going to be copying some commands. All right, so now that we're into our virtual machine, we are just going to kind of follow through this list and copy these commands. So first thing that we're going to do here is we're going to copy this command, and this is going to update our libraries. Just takes a second. Next, we're going to copy this. This is going to install Docker on our virtual machine. Now, I've already installed it, so it just goes real quick. So what Docker does is it makes it really easy for us to just download an image of the validator and install it on this machine relatively quickly without having to go through all the steps of installing different software packages and compiling code and things like that. So going the Docker route is definitely a fast and easy way to create a validator, so that's what we're going to do. This command here is just going to make our username able to run the Docker commands without having to use sudo. So as you can see, I'm logged in as Helium. That's my username. Your username will obviously be different. Okay, so scrolling down here, the next thing we want to do is create a directory. What I'm going to do is go ahead and just create a folder under this Helium folder, which is in my home directory. And I'm just going to go ahead and make a folder called Validator Data. Now that we've created that folder, we can go ahead and go to the next step. So this is the command to run and start your Docker. We are going to need to edit this. So I'm going to go ahead and pull up my text editor and paste this into here. So first thing that we need to do is we need to change where we're going to put our data from Docker. So we're going to put the directory that we just created. And I'm just going to type this in here. So home /helium/validator data. And next thing we need to do is we need to check what is the latest software. So you could just use this command right here. It has latest AMD 64. So this is the AMD 64-bit version of the Docker container. But I'm going to go ahead and show you how you can actually get it from where it's hosted. So we're going to copy this link and just go ahead and paste it in our browser. And it's going to list here all of the containers that are available for the validator. And you can click here and you can actually find out what the tag is, and we can copy this tag. And this is what we're going to use to download and start our validator. So I'm going to go ahead and paste that in here. So I'm using the latest version, which is 19. And then we're going to copy all of this and we're going to paste it into our terminal on Google Cloud. And I made a mistake here. I didn't specify the absolute path of the location of my validator data. So I'm going to go ahead and just fix that real quick. Okay, so as you can see, it's pulling the software and it's pretty quick. It doesn't take that long at all. So we now have a running validator. It is running in the background, and we're just going to go through this tutorial to see what our next steps are. This kind of shows how you can or how you will update your Docker container image, but we're going to skip that for now. We'll cover that in the end. We're going to go ahead and choose this command right here, copy this command, and this is going to tell us the height of the chain of where our validator is synced up to. So I'm going to go ahead and copy this and paste this into our terminal on Google Cloud, and you can see here it returns 1-1. So this means that we are currently on the first block of the chain, which the chain has been running for over a day now, so that's definitely wrong. But that is not a problem because the validator has just started and it hasn't had time to find other peers and connect to them. So it's actually going to take around 15-20 minutes, maybe longer, for it to sync up the whole chain. Note that on the mainnet that might take a lot longer because the chain is a lot longer. So another command that we're going to run is it's just instead of info height, we're going to change it to info summary. And this is going to give us a summary of our validator. Okay, so this is a really useful command. It's going to give us a lot of useful information about our validator. You can see we got our name up here. This is going to be helpful for us identifying our validator later on. We're not connected, we're not dialable, our NAT type is unknown, and our block height is 1, which means basically it's not running. And we have a couple errors here which are expected, but you can wait, give it a few minutes, 15, 20 minutes, maybe longer. You need to give it some time for it to sync up with the chain. The next thing we need to look up is our address. So we type in peer address, ADDR, and this is our address right here. And we need this address in order to stake our validator. So right now our validator is running, but it will not show up on the Explorer website, and it will not earn any rewards. So we're going to want to go ahead and stake our validator. So let's go ahead and check out what the command is to do this. Now we're going to use our wallet that is on our local machine to do this. So I'm going to go ahead and go back to that folder where I have my wallet. I'm going to open that up in the terminal, and we're going to go ahead and use this command that is listed here in order to stake our validator. So we know the address, we copied that. So we're going to go ahead and type in the wallet executable, validator, stake, and then we're going to paste in our address. And don't do that. Let's try that again. So there's our address. Then you have to put 10,000. That's how much TNT we are staking. And then we're going to commit it. You're going to have to put in your password. You have to put exactly 10,000 or it will not work. Okay, so that command is going to take a second, and there it goes. And you might want to write down your hash. That's useful to track the transaction. And so we have just sent that transaction to the network, and we needed to give it a little bit of time. So if we go ahead and run info, we can see here that we still have 10,000 in our account. That means that we have the transaction has not processed yet. Okay, so we're going to give it a while, and then we'll come back. While we're waiting for that, we might as well go check out the Explorer website. This is where we're going to be able to get some useful information about all the validators on the network. So if we go to explorer.helium.wtf, and you can see here's some information about the network. We're going to go ahead and click View Validators. You can see here's all the validators in the consensus group on this map. And what we can do is we can sort by the number. Since we just added our validator We're probably going to be one of the last numbers on here, one of the biggest numbers on here. That's us. That is the vast bamboo chipmunk. That's our name. So it looks like our staking transaction worked and it went through. You can see here that we have 10,000 TNT staked to the validator. Let's go ahead and go back to the wallet just to show you what it will look like after the stake command. So you can see our balance is now just under 5 TNT. And that's because there was some transaction fees in that staking process. And let's go run the info summary command. You can see here that we are currently at 2,400 blocks, and the network is at 3,000 blocks, so we got another 500 or so to go. So we are dialable now. We're still not connected, but you probably won't see connected until you are fully synced up, and we don't have any errors. You might see some errors in here. It's usually nothing to worry about. If your validator is online, you're probably good. So let's look at some other commands that we can run on our validator to get some more information. You can definitely go through these documents and see what else you can do. All right, one of these commands is peer book -s, and this is going to tell us who we're connected to. So we'll go ahead and enter that. And as you can see here, we are connected to 2 peers on the bottom. And we also have the IP address that we are showing up as on the network. And so if you look at this IP address and we compare it to what we have for our virtual machine, they do match, which is a great sign. It might take a while for that to populate, and it could also show maybe your local IP address or something like that. If it never changes, you might have an issue with your networking. Okay, so let's go ahead and run the info summary command again and see if we are synced up. Looks like we are at block 3010, and let's go ahead and look and explore, and it's also around 3010, so that means we are synced up, but it does look like we are still offline. We'll have to give it a few more minutes. It does take a while. The validator has to publish that it is synced up, so that will take a while before you see that online tag. Like I mentioned earlier, you will have to occasionally update your Docker container as new software is released by the Helium team. So we're going to go ahead and scroll up and find the command we need to run in order to update our container. So we go ahead and paste this in here. This is going to stop our container and then remove it from Docker. And then once that's successful, what we're going to need to do is we're going to need to run that same command that we used to start the Docker container. So I'm going to just go find it in my history. And what you're going to want to do is update the version number to the latest version. And that's how you will update your image. Okay, so now that we have our validator running again, let's go ahead and run the info again and see if we have any updated information. So it looks good. We are connected. Yes, we are dialable. Yes, and our NAT type is none. Those are the ideal scenario, so we are good. We are still not online, but like I said, that does take a while. Just to kind of show you what it's like to be in the consensus group, if we sort here by elected, that means these purple validators are elected in the consensus group. In order to earn rewards, you need to be in the consensus group. So we can see here, these are all the people that are validators that are currently in the consensus group. And these purple dots here represent how many times you've been in the consensus group for the last 5 consensus groups. And Expert Charcoal Buffalo has been in the consensus group for the last 2 out of 5 times. It will take a while for you to get into the consensus group. So only 25% of the current consensus group is removed per election. And so that means not many new validators are added per election. So in order to go through all the possible validators, it does take a while. It might take days, potentially, for you to be elected and to start earning rewards. Okay, let's go back to the Explorer and It looks like we are online, which is great news. One thing that you can do here is you can press the star next to your validator. That way it's easy for you to track it and find it in the list. And that's pretty much it. You're definitely going to want to read through all the available documents on here, go through that whole tutorial. When the mainnet comes around, you definitely want to be on top of your game, especially if you're going to be planning on staking 10,000 HNT. One last thing, definitely check out Helium on Discord. There's a lot of helpful people there. If you go to the Validator channel, there's a lot of useful information on how to set up a validator and gets into all the nitty-gritties. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Wish you guys good luck, and thank you.